Do you need a nice table like this to run your train on? Maybe you just got a new train set, maybe you want to expand it, maybe you want something for a whole train layout. Well, I'm going to show you how I built this table out of a pair of folding legs with casters on them and a hollow core door. Let's take a look. Again, this table is built with a hollow core door that's 36 inches by 80 inches. You can get various sizes. In this case, I wanted an unblemished door, so I could use it for doing videos and other things as well. And so I picked up this door from a big box store that did cost me about $70. And the folding legs I picked up are a little bit more expensive because they are adjustable in height and they have casters on them. And I used some pieces of plywood to mount onto the bottom of the door, so I had some material to attach the legs to. So you have to kind of weigh the costs of that, but certainly having something like this is more customizable to meet the actual sizes that you want and the features you want, which might be a little bit hard to find with a regular folding table. And it's actually pretty lightweight. It is awkward being the size that it is, but being a hollow core door and not, like a 3/4 inch layer of MDF or particle board or whatever, those tend to be very, very heavy tables. And so this one is definitely a lot lighter. Anyway, let's take a look at how I built this table. Okay, so the first thing that I had to do was to cut down 2 pieces of plywood so I could attach that to the bottom of the door so I would have something to attach the folding legs to. Now I had several of these 2x4 foot project panels. These were actually a nice birch plywood, but obviously you don't need to use those. You could use a regular plywood that would be a lot cheaper. But I had these and I hadn't been using them for anything for a while, so I went ahead and just cut these down to use on the bottom of the door. I just cut these down to 36 inches wide so they would be even with the sides of the door. Once that was done, I spread glue all over the back of both of these panels and then flipped them over and put them in the spot that I wanted. I didn't want to have them lined up with the edge of the short side of the door since I was planning on having the legs offset from the end. I figured it would just look a little bit better, so I had them set 6 inches away from the short edge of the door. To help hold them in place while the glue dried, I used my brad nailer and just threw a bunch of brads in along the edges so that would attach into the wood on the edge of the door, and then I just put several everywhere else in the middle of the panel to help hold it in place. I did the same thing with the other panel and then just waited for everything to dry. Before I moved on, I made sure that the folding legs would fit properly on this panel. The main concern that I had was I wanted to see how close I had to put them to the edge of this wood panel because I wanted them to fold with the casters on and not have the casters hit each other. And so it turned out I had to have the mounts for the folding legs only about a 1/2 inch from the edge of this wood panel. So in reality, I should have shifted this panel a little bit closer to the edge than what I did because I did have to keep it a little bit closer than what I thought I was going to just so the casters wouldn't hit each other when the legs were folded down. Anyway, at this point I decided that I wanted to paint the table a nice black color so it would look a little bit nicer. And so I put the door up on a pair of sawhorses and then painted the bottom side with a layer of black paint. While that paint was drying, I worked on my folding legs. So these folding legs came with little rubber feet and I wanted to remove those to put on the included casters. Now this was kind of hard to do because they were really in there pretty tight, and so I used a screwdriver to carefully work out those rubber feet. Now they do give you some steel inserts into which the casters go into, and those have little metal flanges on them that help to bite into the metal of the leg to help keep them from coming out. However, it's a really tight fit, and so what I ended up doing was taking a hammer and kind of smashing down those little metal flanges a little bit so it would be a little bit easier to get them into the leg. Then it was just really a matter of hammering them in place and then putting the casters on and seeing how everything came together. I did that with both set of legs and then set them aside. Once the paint on the door had dried, I flipped it over and painted the top surface with that same black paint, waited a few hours for that to dry, and came back and put on a second coat. When everything had dried, I stood the door up against the wall and marked out where I needed to attach the folding legs. Then it was simply a matter of attaching screws in all of the 12 screw holes. Now these legs didn't actually come with screws, so I used 1 1/4 inch screws that wouldn't penetrate all the way through the door, obviously, to the other side. So just make sure your screws are not too long. Otherwise, you'll have a problem with that, but otherwise a very easy installation. And once I had the one set of legs attached, I flipped the door over and attached the other side. But anyway, you can see here what this looks like with the legs attached and the casters. It makes for a very nice rolling table that is easy to move around, and it's easy to fold up those legs and put the door away. Likewise, setting the table up is just as easy. I can just kick out the legs and tip the table over, and it's ready to go. So anyway, a table like this is a pretty easy project. Doesn't take a lot of time. I built this over the course of 2 days, and it only took that long because I painted it, and I had to wait for the paint to dry, and I did 2 coats of paint. But otherwise, you could easily build this in a couple hours or less. So it's a very easy project to do. And, for the most part, I think this works great. It's going to be great for me just to be able to do things like this on it. But I do eventually plan to use this as a base for an N-scale layout project next year. However, I'm going to make that removable from this space. I'm not going to drill any holes in here. I'm just going to actually build a layout that doesn't have a lot of bracing to it and is pretty lightweight that will sit on top of here. And then I can put a couple bolts or screws in the corners to hold it in place, but then easily remove it and set it aside so I can use this as a display table for videos like this. For the most part, I think it looks pretty nice. It's a nice, easy build to do. You don't really have to do much in terms of woodworking. And you have a nice, very, very flat, smooth surface that is going to allow you to have trains running really smoothly and very easily. So anyway, if you are needing a table for some trains or just anything else in the house, this is a way to get one. But anyway, that's all for now, and thanks for watching. Bye.